Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
I mean, I would do a true primal scream, but it's, I'm aware you're on the other end, and that wouldn't be nice. Are you on the other end? I can't imagine why you would be. Hello. We're getting started 17 minutes late. Make that 18. And I have, I've been doing all my sort of deep breathing exercises, trying to keep myself calm. What's making me crazy is I was really, really excited about doing today's show. And then it looked like I wasn't going to be able to. And now here I am. I'm going to do it. But I'm worried that a lot of you have given up on me. So whatever. We'll do a full hour, and joining us in the last half hour, we have a guest who heads a very interesting writing program at the University of Pittsburgh through its Center for Creativity. So this has to do with older LGBTQ folks. Okay. Now, damn it, I'm sorry. Sorry. I have to exorcise my demons. Damn. I was just reading in the New York Times about how anxiety can be good for you. And one of the reasons, and I'm a totally anxious person. And one of the things that I saw, I didn't want to read it because it's something I live with. And it ain't particularly good for me. But I saw that one of the things they're saying is good about anxiety is that it can up your performance. And so that is true. And so I am always anxious before every program, before every speech I give, pretty much before anything I do, except maybe take a shower. I'm anxious. And I wasn't feeling anxious this morning. I was feeling excited about doing the show. And then that got washed or quashed. I want to leave the S off. It works. Okay, enough of my bitching. I know the big news. The big news is Biden gets to put someone on the Supreme Court. That's fine. But that is not the biggest news. The biggest news, of course, is that Amy Schneiders, that constantly winning person on Jeopardy, got knocked off last night. And I happened to see it. I was so stunned. I couldn't even believe. I was like, And the reason I was stunned is because I had seen what the final Jeopardy question was going to be. I see it every day. If you get the New York Times print edition, right there in the art section, usually very near the crossword puzzle, they do a little thing, a little rectangular sort of ad, I guess, that says Jeopardy clue of the day. And 99% of the time, the clue that they put is going to be the final clue, the biggie. And I always check it out. Today, for instance, it says this, and I'm not going to give the answer, but this is going to be tonight's final Jeopardy question. The It's under 18th century names. Okay? And here's the clue. In 1793, he left Dublin for the United States, saying, I expect to make a fortune off George Washington. And he did. Now, I got to tell you, I look at that and I think, what? I can't for the life of me figure out what that is. Now, some of you might already know it. In 1793, he left Dublin for the United States saying, I expect to make a fortune off George Washington. And he did. I can't figure it. So I don't know the answer to that. But yesterday, when I looked, it said the clue for Final Jeopardy was going to be under the subject, countries of the world. And the clue was the only nation in the world whose name in English ends in H. I knew it right there. But that wasn't the rest of the clue. They made it even easier. They said it's also one of the 10 most populous countries. Now, to me, I mean, that had a totally different reaction to the one today. Today, I'm flummoxed. I have not a clue. But yesterday, I had it before I'd even finished the whole Bangladesh, says I to myself. Too easy. And she didn't get it. Astonishing. She went out on an easy. It was an easy question with actually too much of a clue. They shouldn't have added that. It's one of the 10 most populous. You should be able to get that without that. Isn't that interesting? She's just extraordinarily knowledgeable about absolutely everything, and she blanked. So she's gone. And I just had to say that I'm sure a million other people had the same experience I did, which is you got the answer. And just saying, I don't like it when somebody bogarts the championship and just keeps on being there and keeps on being there. I love. And you'll see her again because she'll be back now for when they do the tournaments of champions. But so that was that. And Amy Schneiders, she says that kept her composure. She looked a little shocked. She did. She looked shocked. She kept her composure, but quickly made her way to the ladies' room where she broke down and cried, and she has acknowledged that. And she says, she had had so much fun, and it was very hard to lose. Incredible. But so it turns out she's mortal. And I think I misunderstood how much she meant to trans people, because I'm seeing a lot of people writing about how her being in that position was so important to them. In fact, here I'll share one that somebody sent to me. I don't share your dislike of long-lived champions like Amy, but I understand it. And he goes on to say, having a trans woman win enough that we will see her again in champion tournaments lifts her to hero status. And this is written by somebody in the LGBTQ community. Others, he says, I'm sure watched her each night like they watch NASCAR, waiting for the crash. An unseemly motivation I may share, but deny. I also think it's interesting that champion deposers often don't last long themselves. And that reinforces the notion that it's still on any given day, win or lose game. I mean, logically, the person that beats a 40-day champion should last more than 40 days themselves. No, that's not the thing. But of course, it doesn't work that way. Each game is in and of itself unique. So there is that, and I'm very, very happy that we can move on and give other people a chance at that wondrous feeling of winning a Jeopardy game. But has anyone figured out in 1793 he left Dublin for the United States saying, I expect to make a fortune on George Washington? He left Dublin in 1793. Now, Washington was still the president, wasn't he? Oh, dear. I don't know. What do you mean making a fortune off George Washington? Oh, was he like a sculptor? And he didn't know. I don't know. What do you think? Guys, you know it? You have to come up with the name of that 18th century person. That's the final Jeopardy clue today. Anyway. I've got another. I'm just full of questions. I have another question. You may have seen a news account that was chilling, to say the least, and it's slightly a pun I just made. And it's about the one of the largest icebergs ever known. That's gone. It was one of the largest ever, and it's gone. It melted. It was humongous, and it broke away and has been drifting for years in the southern Atlantic Ocean. Okay. And why the hell can't I find it? And it said, damn it. I want to find this little blurb about it. Here. And researchers who've been watching this thing estimated that as it melted, this is an iceberg that had a wonderful name like, I don't know, A1627. That's not it. When it melted, it resulted in the release of about 150 billion, means nothing to us, I know, 150 billion tons of fresh water. Now, here's my question. Now you're going to see how I'm stupid. I assumed that icebergs were made of salt water. They're in the ocean. That's salt water. And I thought icebergs were frozen things of salt water. But why would it? Help me here. I need somebody who knows something, as opposed to me who doesn't here. Icebergs are made of fresh water. To me, that is so. it's counterintuitive to me. I don't get it. I'm just passing on my confusion to you in hopes that somebody can explain why icebergs are made up. Well, if they're in the ocean, how are they not salt water? I'm sorry, I keep repeating myself here. I mean, they're not the result of like rainfall, are they? I don't get it. I don't get it. I am so confused. Oh. Bert has figured out the answer, the Jeopardy answer. I'm not going to say anything because, you know, some people might want to watch the game and not have it ruined for them. But I was right in my trying to figure out. I said, maybe is it a sculptor? Somebody who, so that's getting close. Okay. So it's somebody who in some way immortalized him for profit. Now I've given way too much away. But yeah, way to go. I would not have gotten that. I'm sure Amy Schneider would have. And how the hell she blanked out on Bangladesh is beyond me. Okay. Speaking of the biggest, and the biggest being the iceberg I was talking about, I have seen that the saber rattling going on, it's just astonishing to watch it unfold. Putin and Russia just amassing all of these, their huge military on three sides of another sovereign nation. And the world just sits and watches. My heart goes out to the Ukrainians. But speaking of the biggest, if a war does break out, and it well could, I mean, this level of bellicosity often leads to war. And when another nation decides that when a nation decides that another nation is in fact really its own, the only way to stop them is to go to war. If that happens, there are those who worry that it has the potential, and this is chilling, has the potential to be the largest land war in Europe since World War II. Like we don't have enough going on? Yeah, let's add the largest land war in Europe since World War II to the pandemic, to the rise of nationalism and fascism, to the potential loss of American democracy. Throw in, of course, global warming, melting icebergs. And yeah, wow. And maybe one of the reasons Putin thinks this is a good time is exactly that. Everybody, every country is struggling, not particularly inclined to come to the aid of the hapless Ukrainians. And I was thinking, okay, so this is not unlike, the power dynamic with Russia obviously being a more powerful nation than Ukraine, just as Germany was a more powerful nation than all those European countries that it decided to just gobble up. World War II. But it would be as if Mexico, for instance, put its troops on the border with Texas and said, you know, this was ours and we're taking it back. There is and I would say that Mexico would have more standing than Russia does with Ukraine. But the reality is I don't really know. But we got a lot of these wars in our future. We got the Chinese, and don't think they ain't going to take Taiwan. And what are we going to do about that one? How? Nothing really changes because human nature is at the base of all of this vanity over control and power. And it's always done by, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get into it. Too much testosterone in the world. Too much testosterone. Roger has guessed what the answer is, and I'm so sure it's incorrect that I'll share it with you. To the final Jeopardy thing of making money off of George Washington. Could it have been the guy who headed up the Whiskey Rebellion, says Roger? I don't think so. But here's his thinking. He was convicted and sentenced to death. But Washington pardoned him. And I believe they went into the whiskey business together. I never heard that. Are you sure? Yeah, I don't. Well, there's so much stuff now. You guys are leaving questions on my doorstep. I'm leaving questions on yours. Nobody thus far has helped me with the icebergs are made of fresh water stuff. Nobody. Yeah. Okay, so back to, I guess, what some people consider bigger news of the day than Jeopardy and World War III and icebergs. The Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court, you understand, we got the votes. This is not like anything else. We got the votes. I mean, the Democrats. We got 50 Democratic senators and the vice president, who's also a Democrat, Ms. Kamala Harris, can break it. I mean, he's 51. That's it. So, you know, Biden is free to nominate anybody he wants. But stop and think that our 50 senators include son of a bitch Joe Manchin, that god-awful Chris. I'm filled with animus today. Cinema. So there are already people saying that Manchin will be saying, well, I want to see somebody that will attract bipartisan support. We can't have the Supreme Court being politicized. Isn't that what that nut will say? What that fool will say? There's also a hope that maybe some Republican senator would make up the difference. But given what I've seen thus far, that hope is slim, to say the least. So in order to allow Biden to get somebody he wants, and here's who I want, yeah, he's got to do a black woman. He does. He pledged to. Got to do it. And just bringing that point of view and life experience to the court is huge. But he's got to do what the Republicans do. It's got to be the youngest black woman in the best health that he finds. So that person stays on the court for decades and decades. I was looking to see if they are saying the age of these women who are widely believed to be the ones he's looking at, and they only gave the age of one in the New York Times today. For some reason, they gave so-and-so 54, and then they didn't give the age of the others. Well, the age is important. I don't want a 69-year-old black woman. I'm sorry. Get my drift. Anyway, oh, dang it. Anyway, speaking of the Supreme Court, I got to get something off my chest. Yeah, I got to get something off my chest here. With their destruction of Biden's mandate, masking mandate, or excuse me, businesses. I'm sorry. This is what happens when I'm looking. And what that was put out by OSHA, right? OSHA, Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration, and the Supreme Court ruled that OSHA did not have the authority. It's exactly what it has the authority to do, to regulate safety in the workplace. Excuse me for screaming at you. But the court, in its infinite wisdom, said that it is beyond me. The court said, and this is ludicrous, that COVID was not an occupational hazard because it exists outside the workplace. And thus, OSHA, being about occupational hazards, did not have authority. Stop and think about the extraordinary stupidity of this court's logic. Any occupational hazard that occurs in the workplace, almost all, also occurs outside of it. You can fall off a ladder at the workplace or out. There's a million things. And to suggest that because a hazard is also something that exists outside the workplace, that OSHA then doesn't have, it is just mind-boggling. And here's the part that just boils my blood. These hypocrites, say that no, we can't. If something happens outside the workplace, we can't be bothering with, trying to legislate health and safety regulations. You'd be regulating everybody everywhere for everything, and we can't do that. But if you go to the website of the Supreme Court, you will see this. Out of concern for the health and safety of the public and Supreme Court employees, the Supreme Court building will be closed to the public until further notice. They so want to protect themselves in their workplace that they won't even allow you or me to walk in to it. What repellent human beings. I am sorry. Repellent. I am not sorry. I am just saying. Damn it. Okay. Oh, wait. I know. I understand that my guest is here. Hang on just 1 minute, because Francis has finally answered why icebergs are fresh water. Thank you very much, Francis. Thanks a lot. Icebergs do not have any salt to begin with. Wow. Icebergs are not pieces of frozen ocean water. What? Icebergs are frozen chunks of fresh water that began their life on land. When snow falls, a region of land that is too cold for the snow to melt, over time, the non-salty snow builds up on the ground. It piles up so high that it starts to crush under its own weight. The crushing force of gravity fuses the non-salty snow crystals into a giant slab of non-salty ice that we call a glacier. Obviously, this happens over a very long period of time. And gravity not only pulls the snow down into the ice, it also pulls the ice downhill. And when downhill means down to the ocean, well, that slab of ice slowly makes its way. And once it reaches the ocean, it just keeps on going. A glacier is so big that just the very edge of it slides out over the ocean because ice floats on water. The edge of a glacier has no problem just sitting there floating on the ocean. But eventually the glacier slides too far out and starts to crack on its edges. Once the crack is deep enough, pieces of the glacier break away and drift out into the open ocean, and thus a new iceberg is born. Wow. Because the glacier is very deep, the iceberg chunks that break off are very tall. The word iceberg literally means ice mountain in Germanic languages. In contrast, frozen ocean water forms thin, flat sheets called pack ice. Well, wow! Thank you. Thank you, Francis. Man, I did not know. Whoa. And Milton, thanks too. Thank you so much. Okay, now I got to get to our guest. After I've been fulminating, this poor guy doesn't want to come on. I said, I'm going to talk to this lunatic woman who's screaming and yelling. Erik, are you there? Erik? Hello? Erik, are you there? I'm not hearing my guest. Hello, hello? How could this be happening? I can't handle this. Erik?
Hello?
Erik?
Can you hear me yet?
Oh, I got you. I got you now. Oh, my God. That was, geez. I was about to literally, go berserk. Okay. Erik, thank you. God, what a
hello.
day. This is not, hello. This is not starting out right for me. Erik is Erik, and I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it Erik Schuckers or Schuckers?
It is. You got it right. It's Erik Schuckers. Yep.
Schuckers.
Schuckers.
That's an interesting name. That's got to be Germanic. Ooh, no?
It is, yes.
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. Erik
Popular
Schuckers.
one out in the rural world of Western Pennsylvania, yes.
Okay. Erik Schuckers is a poet and a writer and an employee of the University of Pittsburgh Center for Creativity, and one of the people who founded, under the auspices of the center, a writing program that focuses on older. By older, we mean what? 50 years plus.
Right.
LGBTQ plus folks over 50, and the program is called In Our Own Right, WRITE. It's one.
That's right.
That's a lovely pun. I love it. I love the idea of the program. And I'm just going to ask you, so what was the idea when you got, and other folks got, this brainstorm of this kind of a program?
So I had been kicking around this idea for years. It sort of gathered steam as I myself was getting closer to getting my AARP card. So I was getting closer to turning 50 myself. And I was starting to think more and more about this idea of creating a kind of space for LGBTQ plus folks to really explore our own experiences and stories through creative writing. And I'd been writing for a long time, since college. I didn't start publishing until I was 40. And so I knew firsthand sort of how empowering it could be to be able to turn your experiences and stories into this art that could touch other people. And so I had this idea churning in my mind. But a couple of years ago in 2020, Pitt, the University of Pittsburgh, declared that it was its year of engagement, and it was soliciting proposals for ways to help make a difference in the bigger Pittsburgh community, both inside and outside of the university. And it just seemed like a perfect opportunity to kind of take advantage of that and make this program actually happen. And the Center for Creativity, my directors there, Kit Ayers and Jean Marie Laskus, were hugely supportive of this idea. So I wrote a proposal and submitted it. And we were able last year to run this pilot program where we invited LGBTQ plus elders. We tried to figure out what the best word was for people ages 50 and up.
Yes, you came up with elders.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we've quite settled on the best word yet, but for now, elders will do. So we were able to offer this pilot program and run a first year and first cohort. We did it for 9 weeks, and the response was so overwhelming and so positive that we've kept it going. So we're about to start the second session of this program.
Okay, what I need to understand more clearly is why focus on these elders, 50 plus people? Why not everybody? Or is it that the history of, I don't know, is it because in this country, young people always are the ones sort of driving things and are heard? Or is it because these older people lived through a time when being LGBTQ was truly dangerous to everything, and we're used to being silent about their experience?
I think the latter is true. I think that for so long, for those of us who are over 50, we got used to being silent in a way. Yeah. We got used to censoring ourselves. And as we get older, one of the things I've started to notice is that it's easy to feel like our stories don't matter, or that we're becoming invisible. So much of culture is focused on young folks, and I think there's a lot of really important advocacy and things to do still with younger folks. But I think there's also a role for those of us who grew up and had really radically different experiences of what being queer was like. I think there's an importance there for us to be able to share our stories too. And I think there's a hunger on the part of younger folks to know this kind of history, which doesn't get talked about.
No, it's a difficult history. We are a lot of history being learned in these days, and that is a history that, because it was but in the closet behind closed doors. I mean, the self-censorship that went on. People now, I think, have a feeling that if somebody is gay, that there are no impediments, that everything's cool, everything is right. I mean, I think that's true. And yet, I know personally somebody who, in his early 30s, who came out very recently to his very religious family, and they went berserk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that still happens. And I know lots of gay people who are 50 plus who have never, and still have parents alive, who have never come out specifically, said it to their parents, even though they live their lives. I mean, they stay with the same person, they buy a house with the same, and their parents seem fine with it, but you can't say it. I know a lot of people that live like that. Right.
Yeah. And some things change and some things don't, right? Yeah. Like the social, the societal aspect of coming out has changed, but families are still families, and reactions are still reactions. And so, I think there's so many things that that are important to contextualize, but so many of our experiences have these touch points that are unfortunately still the same with younger generations. And so I think there's this questioning of how does your experience vary? How does it, where are we in common with each other? And I think that too, that telling our stories kind of helps with things like the recent repeal of the LGBTQ protections in Chambersburg, right? If we don't tell our stories, it's so much easier for people to pretend as if they don't know us, as if they don't have anything in common with us. And
was the brilliance. Wasn't that the brilliance of of what the gay liberation movement did, and how quickly they were able to upend everything by coming out, by saying, you think you don't know us? We're your doctor, your teacher, your sister. Right. It was brilliant, and it worked, right? How can anybody say now that they don't know a gay person?
And they still, I think it's still possible to pretend that you don't, or maybe you genuinely don't. I mean, I come from or think that you don't. I come from a very rural part of middle Pennsylvania, where my parents and a couple of friends of theirs are sort of the very last liberal holdouts in a sea of Trump signs, right? And And so it's still really challenging, especially for people who don't live in metropolitan areas, I think, to be able to share their experience and have it validated and feel empowered by that. There's still this feeling. And a lot of us, we were born, most of us, all of us who are 50 and up, were born at a time when, being gay was still a psychological condition.
Well,
right?
And it was a crime in a lot of
and
ways.
A crime. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We don't even talk about gay marriage, which is such a recent development comparatively, right?
It is amazing. It is amazing how far things have come, and yet, yes, how stubborn and reactive parts of our country are still to the progress that has been made. So the pushback never stops, and we're seeing that. And what you suggested in what happened in Chambersburg, where they're actually repealed the protections that that an earlier council, right, had installed for LGBTQ. And this in a state, Pennsylvania, that has no state protection. For LGBT, unless you live in a city or some other bailiwick that gives you protection. I assume all around in that whole big, vast rural part of Pennsylvania, a gay person doesn't have any right to live where they want or work where they want. I bet that's true.
Yeah, and my hope, and I have to believe this in order to kind of do the work that I do, my hope is that, the ability to share our stories, to turn them into some kind of art that will be not just educational, but also sort of emotionally involving. And I think that's what creative writing does, is it can turn our stories into something that's not just educational, but also has an emotional connection and emotional impact, can have a difference. I don't want to put all the emphasis on us as LGBTQ folks to change society and change the world. But I think every time we tell our stories in this way, it helps. It moves the ball forward a little bit.
I'm curious about the program. You said, so this is not just gay, LGBTQ folks who sign up for the program just start writing stuff and send it to you. This is it's more than that, right? How does it work?
Right.
And who can get involved? I guess I should ask.
Anyone who identifies as LGBTQ plus and is 50 or over can get involved. We had in this last cohort, most of our participants were from Pittsburgh or from the region, but we also had somebody join us from New Zealand who just found out about the program and signed up for it.
Wow.
So, my emphasis really is on the region, but it's certainly open to anyone who identifies. And the idea is to create this kind of writing community. We meet virtually on Zoom so that things like parking in Oakland isn't an issue. Or I've heard from a lot of folks that they feel really comfortable being able to engage in something like this from their own living space.
Sure.
And so they're able to join in. We do readings. We do workshopping of original work. So we talk about some stuff each week based on a theme. Sometimes it's the body, or it might be hometowns, or it might be each week is kind of themed towards a specific writing area. And so we do readings and talk about work that engages that. And then I work with them to do a writing prompt to create the student's own work. And then we meet for a second time that week to talk about the writing that they've done. So it's really this engagement through community, a place for us to come together and share our work and talk about our experience and hopefully make each other's work stronger and better as we go along.
What kind of feedback are you getting from the people who have participated?
It's been really gratifying. They really have loved it. Our first cohort was 11 writers, and all levels of folks. So some people had college experience in writing. Some people had never taken a writing workshop before. There were lots of folks from all different backgrounds who joined, and to a one, they all remarked on how important this was to them to have a place to share their experiences, to talk with each other, and also to do this kind of writing work that they felt was important to share with other folks. We did an open mic, a community open mic that was open to everyone, where at the end the students were able to present their work. We invited folks from the larger community who weren't part of the program to come along and share their work. So the idea is to build this kind of grassroots writing community, and most of the folks that actually took the first cohort are wanting to come back, even though I've said, about half the stuff we do is going to be very similar to what you did the first time around. But they're coming back to do more. So that's been really, really satisfying, and really, I think, points to the hunger and the need for something like this.
Well, it could well be that some of the folks themselves will take the ball and run with it, the grads of the program, and continue. You probably want fresh faces coming in every year, right? Wouldn't you?
I would love fresh faces. I'm happy to keep up with folks who are doing this. Actually, many of the folks who engaged in that first cohort formed right after we ended, formed a kind of informal writing group of their own, and they've kept going,
there you go.
On their own. And so, I hope this kind of keeps spreading like that, right? It keeps growing in that way, because this is really, I think, what we want to do. We want to create something that's sustainable and that grows organically.
Well, this program just really sounds like a slam dunk, and I'm sure you are gratified by it. I'm curious about whether or not you have learned from some of the stories that were written, things that particularly touched you, or that you didn't, or that surprised you. Anything? Yeah,
so much.
Yeah.
I have learned so much from the students who have participated in this first round, and I think one of the things that I've been reminded of is the importance of celebration. There were so many folks who wrote pieces that were really lovely celebrations of their own experiences and their own everyday life. It's hard for me sometimes to remember that my own work usually focuses on some of the more intense and darker stuff, but there is such a need and such a desire to hear those stories celebrating aspects of our experience. And so these folks often focused on things that made them really happy. And it could be a simple domestic moment of making brunch for their partner and their pets, right? Like there's these everyday experiences that people commemorate in ways that are so important and so inspiring that I've taken away from this. So yeah, they've taught me. Hopefully, they've gained something from taking this course and from the stuff that I've picked out and worked with them on. But they've given me so much more than what I've given. I'm really grateful to them.
This sounds like something, the results of it, the stories that should be compiled and archived.
Indeed. We did.
Good.
We did. So at the end of the program, in addition to the open mic, we compiled about a 50-page chapbook of work from the program, from the students who were involved. And they each received copies, but also copies are being archived at the University of Pittsburgh's University Library System. And this go around, I'm hopeful that we can also archive that and get it into the Carnegie Library, so that other folks will be able to check that out. Yeah, that's important too. The ability to share that beyond our group. Right. And
that's such a part of, right. It's such a part of history that so often is not told. It's, an individual person's journey through history. It's the most powerful stuff often. And history should always, I think, come from the bottom up like that. And so it's really valuable stuff you're creating. And
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. And yeah, the oral history movement that we've seen sort of taking part, especially since Studs Terkel started producing work, is so important. And the ability to turn that experience into these shorter, into poems or into short pieces of nonfiction is so important that I want to make sure that as many people as possible are able to access it.
Now, you pointed out... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say we also have plans to digitize the chapbook that we produced and put it on our website, so that it will be available in that form too, so that people will be able to come to our website and see all of the work that's been done.
Now, a lot of these people are not writers so some obviously are probably better at putting it down in words, their experience. So during the course of the course, are they made into better writers by virtue of the class program?
I hope so. We do spend a lot of time talking about craft, about things in poetry like line breaks. Like all of my students will cringe when I say the word enjambment, but like creating a line of poetry, and ways in which to make a better impact, to make more of a connection through the craft of writing. So I provide individual feedback to everybody, regardless of whether or not their works are workshopped that week. I work with each individual writer on their writing to help, hopefully to help make them feel more confident and gain some knowledge about the craft of writing.
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're such a. I'm really liking you. You're such a nice person.
Not really, but I pretend to be.
You sound like a really nice. How does somebody who's listening to this and thinking, man, I got stories. I would love to do this. I would love it to be able to have a, larger audience. How can somebody sign up?
So they can go to our website at creative.pitt.edu, and there's a Get Involved tab, and there is a page there for the In Our Own Right program. So they can click there, find out more information, and sign up to register. There's a registration link right on there. Our next cohort will start in mid-February and will run for 10 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's coming up. So, and you can still get in.
Yes, you can still get in.
And it's it's a 9-10 week program?
Yep, 10 weeks. In addition to all the things that the regular meetings that we offer, we have guest writers come in and do sessions, and also folks are able to access different University of Pittsburgh writing programs like the Writers Cafe that the Writing Center offers, as well as sort of auxiliary writing programs that they're interested in getting into. So there's not just, it gives you access not just to our twice a week program, but also to a whole bunch of other writing opportunities at Pitt.
You know, you mentioned earlier that you had suggested this program to, you mentioned two names, Kit Ayers and Jean Marie Laskus. And I just, who are actually the founders of the Center for Creativity. It was their idea to start this center. And
absolutely.
Absolutely. And for anybody who's thinking, gee, those names sound familiar. Kit and Jean Marie were way back in the day when I did girlfriend shows. Kit and Jean Marie often were on the show because they're my girlfriends, along with Sally Wiggin and Joanne Rogers. That was our cohort, and the other thing is that both Kit and Jean Marie are extraordinary writers.
They really are.
They really are. Yeah.
They really are. I benefit especially from both of their wisdom every day, because I work at the Center for Creativity as a manager for communications, and so I'm always terrified to send them things that I've drafted because they are so good writing.
They're so good. You know. I think Jean Marie should have hung it up when she got a handwritten note from Barack Obama, then the President of the United States, saying, "I've never had anyone write something as wonderful as what you wrote about." Right.
Yeah. It's intimidating to work for them sometimes.
Yeah. That'd be a little bit intimidating. But I think a lot of people maybe don't even know that this Center for Creativity at University of Pittsburgh exists. The program we're talking about right now is just one of many. And check it out, creative.pitt.edu. Right?
Right.
So,
yes.
You got to, I mean, I hope you don't get deluged with folks. I mean, can you take, is there a limit where you say we don't have room because for anybody this time around?
I would love to be deluged. I would love that. It is really, it's so rewarding for me to do this, that whatever time it takes on this end is not comparable to the rewards. Absolutely.
Hey, oh, by the way, you said a word earlier in this conversation, and you mentioned it when you were talking about poetry and lines, and I never heard that word before. What the hell word was that?
Was that enjambment?
Yes.
Was that?
Wait a minute. Spell that for me. I've never even heard it. Spell it. ENJAMBMENT. Enjambment. You know what?
So it's when you
I have to tell you. That's okay. I would have spelled that right if I were even though I never heard the word. I just want to say I would have said JAMB. What the hell does that mean?
It might be an answer on Jeopardy soon.
Yes, I know.
So it's when you end a line of poetry with something other than a comma or a period, right? It's when you end sort of in the middle of a thought and go on to the next line without a kind of natural breaking point. It's kind of a poetry geek thing, but that's what it is.
I don't understand, though, for something so... You know the derivation of the word?
I don't. I know it's French. I know it's French.
Yeah.
So many poetry things are French. But yeah, I'm not sure. I probably should look that up before I keep forcing it on people.
Oh, you mean you really like throwing that word around?
I really like that word.
Enjambment or
enjambment, yeah.
Enjambment. Okay. Jeez. All right. I always thought, with poetry, and I'm not good with poetry. It seems sometimes just so, I think I'll stop here and start another. I never quite understand when somebody in a poem decides to, drop down a line. Stop, breaking something up. I don't understand what that means, if it means anything.
It does. It can mean a lot. So that's one of the things we talk about. One of the things that I hammer into my students because I love it.
That's why you said, okay, when you bring up enjambment, your students cringe. I believe you said, like, oh God,
exactly,
here we go,
yeah,
enjambment again.
God, he's talking about that again, yeah.
Hey, Erik, this was such a pleasure, and I want to thank you for pulling me away from the usual, nightmare stuff that I'm dealing with. This was just delightful. And I think that the result of this program really is important. I just think, other than what it does to the individual who is part of it, just the stories that are being written and then compiled and held is wondrous, just wonderful.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I love what you do. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And I'm sorry for the screwy beginning of the show today and how things didn't quite this is not a well-oiled machine, I'll tell you that. Thank you. And hey, I happen to know there's some people listening who might be very interested in doing this. So wonderful.
I can't wait to meet them. Yeah, that's great.
Erik, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Great day. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, yeah, I love that. Anyway, you guys, that's it for me, if you're there. And I guess I'll see you. This is my weekend. Thank God it's Thursday. So I'll talk at you again on Monday. And I guess that's it. I got nothing else to say. She said, limping off the air. Be safe.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.